for me.
Forgive me.
Welcome back, and definitely an inspirational afternoon with myself here, Nafisa Dango, where we're going to be enticing you to different spaces and places, and of course, uplifting you and educating you with regard to relative issues. Talking about relative issues, I have two very phenomenal gentlemen who are going to be joining me shortly. Let me tell you a little bit about them. Ahmed Akpob is one of the first few residents to have moved into Homestead Park during the dying days of apartheid in the late 80s. Being born and raised in that tough nuclear Westbury neighborhood and lived through the forced removals of the apartheid era of the 50s and 60s, where the seeds of the community activism were sown as he watched and learned from 8 years old from his parents as they struggled during the apartheid era to retain their family home and livelihood, and finally forcibly removed to Lenasia in the mid-60s, where he schooled, matriculated, at the iconic Lanes High at the height of 1976. He's now a businessman, a father of two beautiful daughters. Ahmed is now one of the many amongst the community activists, and he's doing a lot of phenomenal work in the Mayfair Homestead Park area, engaging in the struggle to uplift communities, both through Residents Association as well as the Sultan Bao Center in Mayfair. And then, of course, Isthiaq, known to everybody in the community as Isi instead of Isti, was born in Pageview, or should we say better known as Fitas. His involvement in community was to assist residents with service-related issues, mainly power and water concerns for Ward 58, but also sometimes assist other areas as people that are finding themselves in situations in different areas. He's full-time employed, but doesn't stop at that. Always getting avidly, him and of course Ahmed. Ahmed's a businessman, and so is Isti. They're definitely giving back in many directions to the community, and I thought that's phenomenal because they're such very busy businessmen, but they're still taking their time out to make that difference. So let's say a very warm welcome to them. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for joining me on Inspired Afternoons with Nafisa Dango.
Walaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum, Ahmed.
Walaikum salam. Thank you, Nafisa. It's delighted to be here on this side of the mic for a change.
I think I'm so honored to have the two of you on the show this afternoon. Having known with the types of differences that you've been making and so selflessly, being very busy businessmen, as we know, we hardly see you around, but taking that time out, irrespective of the types of challenges you face in your own life, in your business environment, still going out there and making those differences in the community is, I think, something absolutely phenomenal. It's called selflessness, and this is what we're going to be talking about this afternoon. So let's start off with you, Ahmed. What was your journey like? I mean, coming out of the apartheid era, then moving into Homestead Park, and knowing that the community is facing many challenges, as many other communities are as well. Talk to me about your interaction and what made you decide to get involved in the upliftment and, should we say, sustainability, as well as creating a united Homestead Park as such.
Oh yeah, thanks very much, Nafisa. Yeah, I grew up, as you said in the introduction, in the very tough neighborhood of Westbury and New Clare, and saw the poverty around me growing up, and it was a tough neighborhood. We lived under difficult conditions during the apartheid era under the Group Areas Act, and my mom and dad were extremely kind and compassionate people who lived all their lives in that area. And even though they ran a business there, I think their business of charity was bigger than their business itself.
So you're telling me it comes down from generations, hey?
Yes,
I see you've learned a lot from your family.
It has. My parents' home was a base where many people landed, and I have many stories that I can tell about my mom and dad and my father, especially, and how he cared for the community, and people would sit on his stoop, as they say, waiting for whatever help he can. And yes, my father has been that very powerful influence in my life, and my mother as well. And it just carried on. from then, and we do it without even thinking now. It's just second nature for us, you know. And I'm delighted to
That's
have
phenomenal because I
Isthiaq
can
on
call it.
my side. Huh?
I'm going to call it, Ahmed, I'm going to call that a legacy in inverted commas because,
Yes,
I
it
mean, your
is.
parents have left their own legacy behind, which you decided to follow through with, which I think is phenomenal. And this is what we're trying to make people in communities understand. That firstly, it's about creating the unity, building each other up. And secondly, it's about following through with those legacies that our generations before us have left behind to create such major differences in people's lives, and they've left their marks behind. And I think it's sometimes very difficult shoes to fill. I'm sure you'll agree with me.
It is, yes, but then it gets easier with time. You in this line of work, you get to meet some incredible people. Much of the work I don't do.
What does it make you feel like knowing that you've gone out somewhere and you've changed somebody's life in your everyday scenario, irrespective of the busy environment that you're in?
You know, Nafisa, you speak about legacy. I experienced that legacy, the impact of that legacy of my parents not too long ago. But I think it was in about 2003. At that time, my dad was in advanced stages of Alzheimer's. And I got a call one day. I was with him, and I got a call from a man who asked to speak to my dad. And I said,
Wow.
you know what, my dad can't speak to you now. He's not well, but I'll give him the message. You can tell me. And he said to me, I'm calling you after 45 years. I'm sitting in my home, reflecting on my life, and he said, I just phoned to tell your dad, thank you. And I'm like, okay, so what are you thanking my dad for after 45 years? So you say, you know, and this reminds me of the story that my colleague David told you yesterday about the 10-month-old baby in the squatter camp. And it just took me back, you know, it just took me back all those years. So he says 45 years ago, this was in 2003. And he said 45 years ago, my baby had just been born in my house in Nuclear. And there was not a stitch of clothing, no food, no anything to sustain us in the home. And lost for direction, I just started walking aimlessly in the streets of Nuclear. And I happened to walk into your father's store.
Right.
And I told him my story. And he said, your father filled my home with everything that I could possibly need, not just for that day, but for many, many years thereafter. He says, I'm a grandfather now. I'm retired now. And I'm reflecting on that moment in my life where your father and your mother had such an impact on my life that I just want to say thank you. You know?
Wow.
So,
and you know what? Now you're creating that impact in the Homestead Park area. So at least we can say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You definitely are following in your dad's footsteps. Let's get to you. Yeah, so that's definitely a phenomenal story. Let's get to you. Isthiaq, very funny enough, lots of people in your area know you as Isi. I don't know why. But welcome to the show, Isthiaq. It's so nice to have you on. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're really hectically busy. And the other day I even teased you and said to get a hold of you is very difficult. But so we appreciate you taking the time out. Talk to us and pin out your journey to us. Your journey is equally as impactful as Ahmed's journey, where you felt that, you know, having to get involved with community and building them up was one of your purposes in life.
Yeah, so I think, you know, I am from Fitas. I schooled in Indonesia. I come up from a very poor family. My dad didn't even have a car when we grew up. So I still tell my daughters, we used to live in Extension 8 and you go to the shops in Extension 1. And my mom would say, go and buy this. And she might have not given us something on the list. So you come back after walking 45 minutes, going and coming, you have to go back to the shops. But I think that was all the learnings. And I think for me personally was to say, you know, even today when you drive around and it's quite dangerous, but if you're looking at people that don't have transport, you're always looking to give somebody a lift because it used to be very, very tough. I then matriculated and I immediately started working, and I've been very fortunate in the places where I worked. I received a bursary and I managed to finish my studies. And yeah, I think things just started working and, just moving in the corporate world for me. And then I moved into the Mayfair area, came back here because my wife had taken ill, and unfortunately she had a brain tumor and she passed away. So, we picked up. I did get married again, so life continues. But yeah, I suppose all those challenges, I then decided to get involved in the community initiatives. And I think the one day, it was more around, we didn't have water. And I still spoke to the councillor, and I was quite cheeky with him because he said, wouldn't you help him? So I said, well, must I take some buckets and go and fill the reservoir, because I didn't know what to do.
Oh,
right. And then chats started taking place, and people started saying, there was Suhaif and Tasneem and a lot of other people that wanted to create all these groups, street groups. And there was street groups already established, like St. Fillins in Mayfair West, with Mohammed Patel and a lot of other people, where they've already started some of the stuff. So we just sort of utilize that opportunities to say, how can we streamline? Because if you think of Ward 58, it extends from your Crosby area, Mayfair West, Mayfair, it goes into Pageview, Homestead Park. It's very big. And how do you just not impact your city power Joburg water with 30,000 calls? And that's how we started this whole street rap thing. And I think Uncle Ahmed decided to put me on the Homestead Park group, and they said, you're going to be ever sorry, because the guys are going to be coming to you. But it just creates a lot of energy and synergy and stuff, because I'm also on the Brixton group, and you all know that we have water issues and power things. Brixton gets impacted and it affects all our residents. So we've been operating what I would call the Ward 58 global side, with the support of a lot of people that are like Uncle Ahmed, but we've got phenomenal street raps that get up, go out. When City Power comes, they're going to engage with the technicians and talk to them. And it's more like just streamlining stuff and giving back to the community, because what is important, it is water and your power. And I know people are telling me, that's fine.
It's not only you doing just that. I think it streamlines even further into that, because it's not just about the water and the electricity. I mean, I know you guys go the extra mile even further. I have been watching you avidly. You've always been going into the area, defining the need of the community, and then trying to, of course, fulfill that particular need of the community. Because as we know, every single community has different needs. And Uncle Ahmed, that's where I want to streamline back to you, is phenomenally the other day, we seen you guys going out there, and we didn't know who these little angels were. There were potholes all over the place in the area. And then, everybody's cars were getting damaged, their tires, people were getting punctures, everybody was complaining, nobody wanted to do anything about it. And there you went with your little crew, and suddenly we found the potholes were filled, but we didn't know who the angels were until we went investigating.
Yeah, and Nafisa, that crew is amazing neighbors in Homestead Park. I just step into the energy that they bring to my neighborhood. Zubair Kara and the team on the other side near the Blue Dam, they took up this initiative of just filling in the potholes. So what I do is, and I joined them on some of these runs. They wake up at 6 in the morning. And while everybody is asleep, load their cars up with all the necessary equipment, and simply go. And before you wake up on a Sunday morning, the potholes are filled. So that is an incredible energy that is here in Homestead Park, and I'm so delighted to be part of this neighborhood and that kind of activism in my little gated suburb.
And we should also call it the unity, because I think that's what's important is the unity. Everybody coming, irrespective of the differences people have, they still come together, and during times like this, try and pull together to be able to find a necessary amicable solution to be able to better their lives. And that's what it's about. Isti, coming back to you, what does it mean for you to wake up every single day having such a busy day? But it's not just about the power, and it's not just about the water. You've been a community builder. in many selfless directions as well, with other things that you've been doing to be able to uplift people's lives. What does it mean for you to be able to get up every day knowing that you found your purpose and you've decided to define all the issues in your area and start making differences? But it hasn't stopped there. And like you said, you've moved it into the entire Ward 58, which I think between yourself and Uncle Ahmed is absolutely phenomenal, because it goes to show the type of selflessness that and unity, and should we say in African, it's known as the Ubuntu, that is being created to be able to make communities live a better life and a better quality of life without having those challenges. And a lot of the times we have this habit of complaining to say, oh, government should do this and we should do this and that one should do that. But you've realized that these smaller things can, if we pull together as a community, get sorted out so that we can then deal with the bigger issues going further.
Yeah, so I think very importantly, first of all, I just want to give credit to all the street raps and people that help, because behind the scenes, there's a lot of other things done. So it's not just me. And I think it's more on the coaching and guidance, and to try and get people involved, because I must tell you, what I know about electrical things is shocking. I'll probably put the whole ward on fire. But there's a time where, in terms of just getting to substations, listening to people, and I think the one thing about me is I don't accept no. So I often have people come to me and they'll say, City Power is here and they can't put the power on. And I'm like, okay, ask them if they can breach the electricity, if it's not dangerous. And I've always believed in my life that ask the question, be constructive, and you might just get a yes. And we win a lot of things. And the other thing is about the community, where we have a lot of our elderly. And people WhatsApp you, and when a message comes through, you can't see the number who they are. So even like Uncle Ahmed, he's a young person, but the thing is that when the message comes through, it could be an elderly people, and my heart breaks when I hear that there's just a couple staying on their own and they're battling, and then I'll still send messages to the other people and say, okay, they're coming to Auntie Mary or whoever, please go there. I mean, people have even phoned, and I've had people like Uncle Ridwan, who helps with security and stuff, where he'll say, no, I'll get a SARS or I'll get somebody to be there for the person, because I mean, at 12 o'clock at night, if City Power arrives, what does the old person do? So for me, that's the important thing, because it goes back to saying it doesn't matter whether you're well off or not, or who you are, it's how we can help you. And it's like, people shout at me and say, why do you log these calls? They must learn to log their old calls. I'm like, yes. If it's an elderly person, do they know what WhatsApp is? Do they know how to go onto the site? And I know where to draw the line, because you also cannot just do and not impart that knowledge. So when I do go to the substation, I do interact with people. It's like, let's ask the questions together. Let's see how we can do. And I must say, there's a lot of ladies on, and yes, obviously women are most of the time, I would say, more efficient than us. But my concern is in the evening when people come out, you can't let the ladies go out alone. So we're also protective of our females to say, listen, please, there has to be men folk out there. And I think it's, when you ask me what do I do, I'm like such a busybody. I don't think.
Isti, we seem to have lost you there. Uncle Ahmed, coming back to you quickly. It's not just about that.
That's where we are. It's more getting up, making a difference, and I get so excited when people's power is back. There is some other things you can help them with.
We lost you there for a minute, but we kind of get the impact of what you're telling us. Coming back to you, Uncle Ahmed, very quickly. We know that it also does not just extend to that. You've been extending yourself for a while now to be able to help people that have not had access to dialysis, trying to intervene with, of course, one of the NPOs to be able to go out there, have a look at the patient and give them that necessary help. Because as we know, if a person does not get dialysis within a few days, of course, they know more. So we want to commend you on that, because that's something I think that is very important. It's a skill that that needs from both of your sides with what you're doing, loads of selflessness, to be able to take time away from your family, to be able to give it to somebody else that's in dire need.
Yes, that has been an incredible project, thanks to my sheikh at Sultan Bahar Center. He afforded us all this platform at Sultan Bahar Center. So we have all this love and this compassion and this kindness that we have in our hearts and we don't know how to express it. So Sultan Bahu Center was that platform where we could express that love for serving humanity. It is a powerful platform, and he just offered it to all of us and says, "Go, guys, girls, ladies, whoever you are, children, go out there and
And I
serve."
think
And
what's
this was one
important
of those
about
projects
that,
that he handed
yeah,
to me, and it absolutely it has
I
brought me.
think he's realized your purpose there. That's what it's
I
about. It's
did,
having to
I did,
determine your
I did.
purpose.
That
Yeah,
purpose
I can
was
understand
to be a witness to the life of another human being.
for sure. Definitely.
And to witness them literally at the edge of death, and you're holding their hand, and and then suddenly they're back again.
Yeah,
It's an
and I think it's
incredible,
that fulfillment of knowing that you've given them a
absolutely,
second chance at life.
absolutely.
That's what it's
So
about.
when you say that the time in our businesses and the time in the community service, really there's no distinction, there's no line there anymore for people like me and Isthiaq. It's all one. When that call comes in the middle of the night, it's as if my daughter is phoning me. It's the same thing. We respond with the same urgency to any call, and my phone is on 24/7. And
Sure.
so when I cross, I live here in Homestead Park, and we do all this activism here. But then I cross the railway line and go to Sultan Bahu Center, and that's a whole new world of activism there that stretches. It's not confined to Mayfair, but it goes countrywide. The cataract operations. The first project was, of course, the children's home, which was very heart-wrenching, heartbreaking. But a very meaningful project, and I'm really grateful to Sultan Bahu
Sure.
Center for the
Okay,
opportunity
Uncle
to
Ahmed, I'm
serve.
going to go back to Isthiaq there. Isthiaq, talk to me about the fulfillment you get, and as I was saying, it's so phenomenal to see somebody like yourselves, take the elderly into account, because a lot of the times what happens is there's a gap there. And to see that this gap has been bridged in some way, to be able to define their needs and go out there and then try and fulfill it for them, I think is phenomenal, because a lot of the times there is the places where we need to look at, and of course also I think what we now need to start looking at going further is those people with special needs, the disabled people. I think are being forgotten in many directions, with me speaking to many people out there and NPOs to say that we need to look at fulfilling the needs of those as well. So it's nice to see that you're going out there. What does it mean for you every single day to know that you have also fulfilled your purpose, when you wake up in the morning, you've changed somebody's life in some way?
No, I think, I always draw my energy from other people. So irrespective of, age, gender, or, who it is, I think that's the purpose. And the main thing is to try and get everybody else involved. And I mean, it's a simple thing. We like, my team was telling me the other day, they call me an operator. So it's like, what you do is I check and I say, okay, so now on this street, this is happening. Can we align some of the younger people to help this one? Or if people's powers are out, like, can we charge their laptops? If they need to use their phones, how do we help without thinking, what's my electricity bill going to be, or how long it's going to be? And that's more important. And today it is that way, because there is a lot of old people living alone, and there is nobody to help them. I mean, I think of my dad or my mother-in-law or somebody like that, each spouse. One of them have lost their spouses. What do they do? And if they need something, how do we support? And you just have to have that patience, because we're going to get old one day. And that's the main concern that you have. And I must say, my mother-in-law is on dialysis at the moment, so I can attest to what Uncle Ahmed's doing. And I think the Almighty rewards him there, because it's a very tough time for people on dialysis. So yeah, there's a lot of needs, and it's also important to go out and understand what others are going through, because as Nafisa, you are right. I mean, I often hear people telling us, these technicians or whoever the guys are like this, and why must you give them a coding? And why must you do this? And I'm like, guys, you know what? Why do you worry about all that? The person's on site. If you got the means, go and get the stuff and give it to them. Just be nice and kind and dealing.
For sure.
I mean, there is a time for everything. I mean, we need to raise things with their leaders and bosses if things are not done properly. But they're also working out there. And you know what? It's surprising. I mean, some people have been working 48-hour shifts. I can't understand how they operate. We talk about us with less sleep, but they're working. And the best is when you're trying to phone the technician for power, and the guy, I said, I'm phoning this guy, but he's not answering. I'm like, guys, he's on the pole. Do you want him to fall off the pole?
Ouch.
That's
Yeah.
you
But anyway,
So
we seem to be running out. Isthiaq, we seem to be running out of time. Quickly, Uncle Ahmed, what message would you like to leave us with this afternoon?
I just want to touch on what Isthiaq said. I mean, the phrase "power to the people" means something completely different to me and Isthiaq these days. Because we started with speaking about legacy. I mean, that's the legacy my parents left me. What we're doing is simply a legacy my parents left me. I'm leaving that legacy to my two girls, and I'd like more younger people in Homestead Park, Mayfair, to come on board and continue this legacy, because we won't be around for a long time. And that is critical for succession. Has to take place. Yeah,
I agree with you. Isthiaq, quickly, your comments.
Yeah, I think I echo the words, and I think it's very important to get the youth more involved. They're so technologically advanced. Just to roll up their sleeves and get more involved would be awesome. It's stay true to your heart and soul, and just do what's right. Stop worrying what's around you. Let's help each other. Let's have fun. Life is short, things are tough, and let's be all together and be one big community, irrespective of everything.
Thank you so much. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me this afternoon. It's been such a pleasure and an inspiration to be able to speak to such phenomenal, selfless people who go out there and give back in many directions. And from myself and the team, we want to commend you and acknowledge the amount of amazing work that you've done. So all the best going forward. And thank you so much for joining me on the show. And we wish you nothing but the best going forward. You take care of yourselves. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Thank you so much.
Ahmed, Akpob and Isthiaq Sattor definitely making differences within the communities of Homestead Park and Mayfair. And they say that's what it's all about. It's all about building each other up. We're going to go for a quick break. Stay with us. We'll be back with you in an instant.